All right, all right. I'm going to talk about psychological projection, the Poe paradox, and and how that works together. And I'm going to use a little bit. I was thinking like that word like double speak. What does that even mean? What then? Is there a triple speak? Because there's a Poe paradox and reverse Poe paradox. So if there's a double speak and like talking normally to say what I mean, then is there also a triple speak? So 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 I have my ideas. They're flowing now. So maybe I'll sound a little bit less convoluted now. Okay. Second attempt. The Poe paradox is where I no. I'm going to start from psychological projection. Psychological projection is, let's say, in the context of um, spite or anger. I'm offended by what someone says, therefore I feel spiteful towards them. Therefore, I assume they're feeling spiteful towards me when they say something, and that justifies my indignation. Okay? Um, so it's like self justification for getting mad. That's what psychological projection is in the context of getting angry. But that's illogical. So, what if the logic for psychological projection lies within understanding the Poe paradox and that George Orwell term doublespeak? Doublespeak is where you say something but mean the opposite. So, like, where scrapping net neutrality protections would be called the Internet Freedom Act because you're like destroying the freedom, or like where I don't know, where like a peacekeeper would be someone who destroys peace, or like stuff like that. Okay, not that peacekeepers are bad, but um, you have to have diplomacy if you're gonna be waving guns at people. Okay, I don't actually. Never mind. That's so off topic because I can't think of anything uh, to apply that to because I haven't looked at politics with peacekeeping. Uh, so Poe paradox is where you Poe paradox is where someone says something and they believe. No. Oh yeah. So say you worship like Kim Jong Il or some other deity, right? Because Kim Jong Il actually meets the definition of God for various people who worship Kim Jong Il as God. So then let's say an atheist, someone who does not believe that Kim Jong Il is God, comes up and says, "Yeah, isn't Kim Jong Il such like a great benevolent God?" And someone who actually thinks that will be like, "Yeah, you're right, he is," and they won't realize that they're being mocked. So that is the Poe paradox. But then there's the reverse Poe paradox, which is where, let's say you and I are both like, uh, what's the religion that worships Zeus? Let's say we both worship Zeus, okay? Because that's like a unpopular. I'm sorry if anybody worships Zeus. Let's say calculator. We both worship calculator. Now I can monetize this video, right? I'm not being discriminatory towards religion. So we both worship the calculator, and and I say, I am so thankful that this calculator has given me life and is looking after me from heaven. Thank you, calculator. And you, who believe the exact same thing, get offended because you think I'm mocking your beliefs, right? That's the reverse Poe paradox. Because hearing hearing your ridiculous beliefs out loud sounds makes you sound makes you feel so silly. Or the silliness of your own beliefs sounds like when someone repeats them to you, it sounds like they're mocking your beliefs because they sound so silly when they're said out loud. And so I think that's why people get offended by the reverse Pope paradox. And I've had that happen where well, it can especially happen where someone says, like, well, God's grace has led me to do this. And then someone with the exact same belief says, oh, no, no, God's will is to do the opposite, right? When people both assume, like, oh, God wills me to, like, marry this girl, or oh, God wills me to, like, win this competition, right? But then the other person also believes the same thing, and so, like, you disagree, and then that would be like an application of the reverse Poe paradox, where the other person's like, oh, you're mocking my beliefs. Clearly, she doesn't want to marry you; she wants to marry me, and you are mocking God's will, you know. But they both believe the same thing. It's just they're just applying it differently, okay? And so then there's so how can that be applied to psychological projection? So what if psychological projection is logical? So the goal here is to not feel insecure, right? Um, let's postulate that the goal of psychological projection is to not feel insecure because you don't want the foundation of your personality, your core belief system, your core foundations of your worldview. You don't want those questioned. You don't want those destroyed because that would cause too much cognitive dissonance. It's like the world is like this. If someone disproves that, then, like, I have no basis for knowing anything is real, whether anything is real. And maybe a lot of, like, philosophy. There's a lot of, like, people in philosophy who are like, well, we don't know if anything is real. How can humans know if anything is real? With science, you dumb fuck. Because, like, there's not to bash on, like, philosophy as a whole, but there are philosophers who are just, like, completely apathetic because their go-to argument when they disagree with you is like, well, we don't know if anything is real. It's like, no, you dumb fuck, we have science. We can actually verify and have a accurate model of reality and hypothesize and predict from that. We can have other people verify, test, double check, fact check, see if the model works with reality, see where it doesn't work, adjust the model to meet reality, and then we have an understanding of fucking reality, which is peer reviewed, and that's called science. Well, basically. So, yes, humans can understand the universe. Okay, does science let us understand absolutely everything? No, I don't understand. Um, I don't understand how black holes work or quantum entanglement works. I don't understand how was it fission or fusion? I don't understand how fusion in the middle of the sun works, but, like, it's happening. I can observe it, so I can, like, kind of approximate how it works and say, well, this is happening, so this is probably what works or probably what happens. And other people is like, yeah, that's generally a maybe oversimplified, maybe overgeneralized, but that's generally how suns burn. And then other people are like, yeah, I agree. And then some other guy 100 years from now might be like, no, um, this is actually a more accurate mathematical description of this phenomenon. And other people are like, yeah, it is. Okay, we'll update our understanding of the universe, right? But even if it's an oversimplified approximation, we can still understand. Anyways, so with psychological projection, I think maybe how it works is if I The guy who believes in the calculator, if I offend him, if I criticize his beliefs and I say your calculator is an inanimate object, therefore it can't be a benevolent god because it doesn't do anything without like you pressing the buttons. So how can it have created you if it relies on someone else to make it work, right? Okay. Something like that. And the other person thinks I'm hating on them and mocking them, even if I'm saying like, well, there's this other explanation called evolution, right? And they feel insecure because no, instead of going to like, oh, evolution, let's check if that's a more accurate model and update our understanding of reality, they go to, I am offended. I'm angry at this person, therefore they're angry at me. I feel spiteful towards Diego, therefore Diego is being spiteful towards me. But what if that psychological projection actually comes from triple speak, which I'm going to define as psychological projection plus the reverse Poe paradox in the context of being mocked. So I'm criticizing someone's beliefs. They feel mocked because when I say the self-contradiction of their belief, hearing their own belief with the self-contradiction so obviously explained makes their belief sound silly to them. So they feel like their belief is being mocked. And since that belief is a core foundation of their worldview, it's a, a, a building block of their personality. And so they feel like they are being mocked. And to an extent, they're right, because yes, I am criticizing their belief, but they could just believe in evolution instead of that they were created by a fucking calculator. So maybe triple speak's not the right word, but I guess that's like a logical explanation. I'm thinking about it too, cause like, oh my god, you know, it's like something about like today. Okay, Stephen Hawking died today, and that is like heart shattering because Stephen Hawking is one of the greatest minds. No, Stephen Hawking, up until yesterday, Stephen Hawking was the greatest mind in the human race. Um, in terms of intelligence, in in my opinion, because he overcame more hurdles than anyone. Maybe there are people who are smarter than Stephen Hawking, but I value his. No, I can't. I don't even want to think about what he went through because it's just too heartbreaking. And he died today, or well, I guess it's 1 a.m. now or something. So, but he just died. But everybody instead is talking about, oh, Russia neurotoxins assassinating someone in Britain. And I'm like, so then when people start like making up ridiculous assumptions, I point out like, okay, well, these are all these other chemical attacks that people blamed on Russia and were debunked, and these are the people who debunked them or disproved them. And so like this is the world state of affairs with like NATO and Russia and blah 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 blah, and I give them information on like how Russia has acted and how America has acted and how one is provoking the other, and yeah. Anyways, but when I like talk about stuff like that, people like get mad, And when I talk about like the Bible, like when I quote the scriptures, the holy scriptures, people get mad because they'll quote the parts about like do unto others as you would like to be done by, and like, yeah, I agree. Or like, it would be nice if everybody was immortal and didn't have disease or suffering, and I'd be like, yeah, I agree. Well, that's not maybe part of the Bible, but that was like from Jehovah's Witnesses, afterlife, the reincarnation thing from various religions. So I'll be like, yeah, that would be nice. I think that can happen through X, Y, Z and science. And they'll be like, no, that can only happen once you die. Like, but I don't have a soul, so how am I going to reincarnate? Anyways, our argument goes something like that. Um, me being more tactful. And they'll get offended when I quote the parts of the Bible that are like, God, oh, now I can't monetize the video. That are like, God uh, committing genocide against the Canaanites, God committing genocide against the Egyptians because he didn't like their leader. Um, Even though he's like the one who hardened the Pharaoh's heart or whatever. And then there's like, um, no, not the Canaanites, Egyptians. There was one other group. Oh yeah, Sodom and Gomorrah. Oh, and the Great Flood. So like God's just like murdering like so many people and all these natural disasters and like predation and aging and disease and like all of this is God's doing, and even Satan himself is created by God. So if God's like a benevolent, omnipotent creator, then he's directly responsible for all the suffering on earth. Like, because he's directly responsible for Satan. And so people will be like, yeah, but that's because like Adam and Eve sinned and we're their children, so we're responsible for what they did. And even though like a different part of the Bible is like, you are not responsible for what your parents do. Or, yeah, Ezekiel. So, but yeah, I'll quote the parts of the Bible that are like, God talking about how many slaves you can capture and which woman you can rape, and other people quote the parts like, yeah, but Jesus said this, and I'm like, I agree, I agree with that philosophy that you should treat others the way you want to be treated. Um, but I disagree with all the shitty stuff that happens in the Bible. And then I like, what if I bring it up? People like report me, and I'll get banned from whatever because it's like, well, you're being discriminatory towards a religious affiliation. It's like, or no, this for harassing a religious affiliation. And I think it's like people feel mocked when you criticize like the genocide and the rape and the slavery because that's like a core foundation of their beliefs. And so like people have like integrated into their personality like various like horrific crimes against humanity committed in the Bible by whatever god they worship, right? So but there's alternatives. You don't have to like be offended at me for pointing out how self-contradictory your beliefs are. You can just be like, okay, well, maybe humans are flesh and bone and our existence is a is it comes from the brain, and having a brain, like develop the brain creates consciousness. Like, what about that? And then, well, maybe we should treat everyone like with a brain the way we want to be treated, and hey, there now you can go along with your life. And if you don't live forever, then I don't know, maybe like pass on some of your whatever you deem meaningful. Like, you want to go to heaven, but you just became an atheist, and you're like, oh fuck, there's no such thing. Then have children, get married, have sex, um, be successful, be influential, eat lots of food, watch your favorite shows. Um, most people have or have had something meaningful, a friend, hanging out with friends, uh, seeing nature, learning about the universe, watching, like looking at beautiful art or listening to awesome music. Like, all of that stuff you can still do as an atheist. Like, just because your understanding of yourself is more realistic instead of supernatural, like, you can still have a meaning in life. It doesn't have to be like, I'm gonna go to heaven and get reincarnated and have my own planet and 50 virgins to have sex with in heaven. Like, it doesn't have to be that. You can still settle for something else. Like, I wanted to be a professional Heroes of the Storm player. I was for maybe like 2 months, maybe a bit more than 2 months. And then, like, it just couldn't find the right people, lost their synergy. I was banned from the amateur tournaments because I was doing well in the professional tournaments, but I needed the amateur tournaments to grow as a team, to grow our team dynamic, to grow our team morale. I can't because I'm only allowed to play in the pro league, but then the pro league has like equally skilled opponents, and some of our players haven't played on that level before, so they need the amateur experience. So it's like, you know how teams are. It's just like at a workplace, people step on each other's toes when they make mistakes, and when I make mistakes, I'll get more and more salty. So it's like, yeah, I and then it didn't happen. I didn't become a professional. I burnt out, and I'm still doing something with my life. Making angry YouTube rants. That can be your calling. I mean, I don't know. Check Steam. Near Automata was on sale. Darwin Project just came out. Heroes of Hammerwatch just came out. There's some good video games out there. Um, so find something you like and play, or hang out with your pet, with your kids. Uh, okay, okay. Maybe that sounded like all fake and flattery, but like no, people actually get crippling depression after becoming atheist because their worldview is shattered, their personality is obsolete, so they have to r- remake themselves, and that's like, I don't know, it's kind of like going through a gender transition, and like, not everybody succeeds at like remaking their self identity, and some people commit suicide, and that's fine too. But um, like, I, it's your choice. But well, now everybody's like cringing inside. But yeah, like, it's, I don't know. I find I can make better decisions. Like, if I'm more if I have a more accurate view of reality, then I'm more well informed, and that means I can make better decisions. So, I mean, that's one reason to value reality. But the other reason is like, I'm less of a hypocrite, I'm less self contradictory if I like accept where I'm wrong and try to learn from where my views contradict reality. So, like, yeah, if I don't like feeling, the dissonance of contradictions in my views and contradictions in my beliefs, self contradiction. I hate that. It doesn't feel good. So I value logical thinking, and that's one of the reasons I am the way I am now. Um, and yeah, if you've like had someone close die of suicide and it was sad for you, then like I'm sorry. Um, I mean, telling someone to commit suicide is like the most like vile thing you can do according to some people, but like if you're not gonna like go for like uploading your brain into a computer simulation, then you're gonna die. And like some people, some people who are in like extreme pain want to commit suicide, and the countries don't let them because it's like even if you're on your deathbed, you're not allowed to commit suicide, but you have to pay ridiculous health fees and cripple your entire family's into debt. So yeah, and then other people like I don't know. I guess suicide is just bad for production, right? Because you need workers and society needs like a workforce. But yeah, there's like obviously if you're gonna commit suicide, it's probably extremely painful, and you probably would regret it while dying. And then because there's like even if the brain runs out of oxygen, there's still what anaerobic processes. So like I don't know when someone like actually stops thinking and stops being conscious. Because even if you're asleep, it can like if you're even dying in your sleep would probably be kind of painful unless you're like pumped up on morphine. But there's like also family members and loved ones who would probably be like really sad if you died. So there's that's my like devil's advocate. Don't commit suicide, or that's not a that's like the good guy speech, right? So so maybe I won't get like I don't know. You can pretty much everyone I meet is like pretty anti-suicide. So feel free to like let me know how fucked up I am in the comments. All right. Um I said what I wanted to say. I feel like no, I no, please no, like if I'm like I have a different view of humans than most people. I think we overconsume we consume way too much. So that's like if we were like more sustainable with our consumption, then I wouldn't be like talking about suicide the way I am now, right? Because I do value life. Okay, I actually do value life, but if we destroy more life than like we are worth, then what's the point of living anymore, right? So okay, see ya.